Hi everyone, my name is Nick Lombardo and welcome to the Wishlist. This is a video segment from the ClearPath Podcast in which we take different NBA teams and try and add one player that would make their team better. Now the point of this segment isn't to necessarily look at the most realistic options or option based on the salary cap, but instead a player that can make this team much better based on their basketball fit. However, at the end we will look at the realism of this trade and give it a ranking from 1 to 10. Today the team we are looking at is the New York Knicks. Now, the Knicks have started off 5-4 with impressive wins over the Bucks, Pacers, Jazz, Hawks, and the frisky Cleveland Cavaliers. They have been one of the surprise teams in the NBA this season, with many preseason projections putting them at the bottom of the East. Their preseason over-under total for wins was set at just 21, and their record last season was a lowly 21-45. Over the offseason, this team made a couple small moves, adding veterans Alec Burks and Nerlens Noel, as well as drafting Obi Toppin and Emmanuel Quickley in the first round. However, their biggest offseason move was adding Tom Thibodeau as their head coach. Thibodeau is well known around the league for his raspy voice, passionate love for defense, playing his starters many minutes, and demanding nothing but the best from every player. So far, Thibodeau has been as advertised, playing Julius Randle and RJ Barrett 37 minutes and 38 minutes per game respectively. These marks are currently number 1 and number 2 in the league. However, Thibodeau's biggest impact has been on the defensive end, where the Knicks are playing with the spirit and hustle unpossessed last season. Even without premium defenders on this team, the Knicks are currently 4th in defensive efficiency and 2nd in points allowed per game. They have done this by setting up their defense in the half court to try and prevent points in the paint. With 2 shot blockers in Nerlens Noel and Mitchell Robinson, the Knicks are fine with letting smaller guards challenge their 2 big man lineup. Here is a clip where Julius Randle plays good defense on Trae Young and Mitchell Robinson blocks his layup attempt. They are currently allowing their opponents to shoot the 4th most amount of threes in the league, and they have been excellent on their closeouts so far. Their opponents are making just 30.1% of their threes, which is the lowest mark in the NBA. This is a combination of extra effort, better defensive rotations, and a little bit of good luck. They rely heavily on Julius Randle's driving kick game to score points with the starters, and they rely on Austin Rivers shooting off the bench. Randle has been playing like an all-star this season, averaging 23 points, 12 rebounds, and an eye-popping 7 assists at the power forward position. Randle is a freight train when he drives to the basket, and he is a force when defenses allow him to spin and get to finishing with his left hand. His mid-range shot forces defenses to crowd him and leaves slower big men in the dust when he uses his quick first step. This helps create a lot of open threes for the Knicks. Unfortunately, this team does not have a lot of above-average three-point shooters. Kevin Knox and Quickley have been pleasant surprises off the bench, with both of them shooting over 40% from 3. However, Barrett and Bullock have been struggling from the arc, shooting 32% and 21% respectively. While Elfrid Payton has been shooting well this season, his career mark from 3 is 29%, making him not much of a threat to defenses. This has allowed teams to collapse on Julius Randle and can often leave the Knicks looking helpless on offense, especially when the defense is set up in the half court or when they bring out a zone. Additionally, because Julius Randle handles the ball so much, he is currently 4th in the league in turnovers with 4.6 per game. In the clips on the screen now, you can see Julius Randle getting a turnover from trying to run the break and dribble. Additionally, in the next clip, you can see the defense collapsing on Randle, forcing him to take a tough fadeaway shot due to the lack of reliable shooters around the perimeter. For the Knicks to have a chance at making the play-in tournament, their offense will need to improve. They are currently just middle of the pack in three-point shooting, and that is likely to regress based on the players they currently have on their roster. Additionally, the big load they've been placing on Julius Randle to create offense for them is probably unsustainable. Randle has never averaged more than 3.6 assists per game or averaged over 33 minutes per game over a full season. This team needs veteran leadership and better offensive players to break into the next tier of teams in the East. The good news is they have about $18 million in cap space to work with. The player that would be a great fit for their current team is Kyle Lowry. Lowry is a tough defensive player who can guard multiple positions and uses his body extremely well to draw charges and frustrate offensive players. He is exactly the kind of player who would fit into Thibodeau's system. Here you can see him taking a charge on Malcolm Brogdon during the playoffs 2 seasons ago. On offense, Kyle Lowry is a savvy player and a good three-point shooter both off the dribble and catch and shoot. He's a career 36% shooter from 3, and this season he's averaging 19 points, 5 rebounds, and 7 assists while only turning the ball over 3 times a game. Additionally, Lowry has playoff and championship experience, and he is a well-liked teammate around the league. Lowry can stretch the floor and reliably handle the ball without losing much flexibility on the defensive end. Replacing Elfrid Payton with Kyle Lowry in the starting lineup will allow Payton to take on more of a bench role where he can be more effective next to shooters like Quickly, Rivers, and Knox. Payton is most effective when driving to the basket using his floater game with shooters to his left and right. You can see this in the 2 clips on the screen now, where he takes a tough drive on Giannis and he shoots a floater in the middle of the paint. Lowry is also adept at getting off quick threes in the pick and roll. With Randle being such a passing and driving threat as the roll man, and the defense forced to respect Lowry's shooting, both players' effectiveness would be increased by playing together. The Knicks can get this trade done for a package including Frank Ntilikina, Dennis Smith Jr., and Reggie Bullock. Additionally, they could sub out Reggie Bullock for Kevin Knox and the contracts would still match up. These players are all on expiring deals, so Toronto could keep their cap flexibility going forward. In addition, the Knicks have Dallas's first-round pick in 2021 and 2023, as well as second-round picks from Charlotte, Detroit, and Utah. On Realism, I would give this trade a 6 out of 10. There are not many teams in the market for a point guard right now who have the cap flexibility and contracts that the Knicks have to be able to make the move for Kyle Lowry. Let's look at this trade from the Knicks' perspective. The Knicks could have as much as $72 million in cap space to use during the next offseason. However, with many of the biggest name free agents choosing to forgo the next offseason period, the Knicks could be stuck rolling over their cap space again. Instead, they could use it on the veteran Lowry to give their team more credibility and stability for the next 2 years. Even with Lowry being ages 35 and 36 the next 2 seasons, Chris Paul has proven that there is a path for smaller point guards to remain effective after their age 35 season. Lowry is a high IQ player who doesn't need to rely on his athleticism or quickness to be effective, therefore his game should translate well going into his older years. A 2-year deal worth a total of somewhere between $30 and $45 million could be very reasonable for both parties. Let's look at this trade from the Raptors' perspective. The Raptors have been a disappointment so far, starting off at just 2-6, and they have Lowry on the last year of his contract. At age 34, and likely looking for his last big contract, Lowry's timeline does not match up well with the other members of the Raptors core. Both Fred VanVleet and Siakam are 26 and just got big contracts. Masai Ujiri is one of the best general managers in the league, and he certainly does not want to lose the asset of Lowry for nothing should Masai stick around in Toronto. The trade package offered by the Knicks is similar to the one that the Raptors made for Marc Gasol a couple years ago, and the one that the Jazz made for Conley. In the Conley trade, he was traded for Grayson Allen, Kyle Korver, Jay Crowder, and a protected first-round pick. Gasol was dealt for Jonas Valanciunas, DeLon Wright, CJ Miles, and a second-round pick. Both of these packages center around some draft capital and a mix of young players and veterans to match up salaries. Overall, this is a trade package that could be beneficial for both teams. For the Raptors, they would be able to get an asset back for Kyle Lowry, and for the Knicks, they would have a veteran who can provide stability and good offensive play next to Julius Randle. This would allow the Knicks to have a legitimate chance at making the playoffs for the first time in multiple years. This has been The Wishlist, a segment from the ClearPath Podcast. Thank you for watching.